Celtic would absolutely, at least in the next 2 to 3 years, not only be top six, but I would hazard a guess to say they would be challenging for a Premier League title. Because what people like to think of Celtic, it's been Rangers before, is that, Scottish League, it's rubbish, that's why they win it every single season. But this is what people forget about Celtic. Celtic as a club, alone, are massive. Their fan base is huge. And their average attendance, and you pit this against other teams across world football, that's not bad. When you consider these are fans turning up to watch a team play against SPL sides, right? And no disrespect, but it's not the most competitive of leagues. Especially when you consider that of the last 20 winners of the SPL, Celtic have won it 16 times. Only Rangers have laid a glove on them 4 times. For Rangers, for me, as someone growing up who would just always believe it was between Celtic and Rangers, it's interesting to see this now because that is heavy dominance. I would personally love to see, at least Celtic be in the Premier League, compete in the Premier League, and Rangers, because we're talking about 2 massive clubs where it wouldn't be long before they're up to scratch in terms of challenging for a title. I think the issue that some people may have with Celtic right now in terms of how competitive they'd be in the Premier League is being judged off the back of their current squads in its current state. Now, yeah, obviously there's a strong argument for saying Brendan Rodgers, that's ridiculous to think that Celtic would be that high up. However, just a few seasons in the Premier League, the money that they would generate, the money they have as a club, the appeal in terms of the stature, the attendances, as I say, it wouldn't be long before they're attracting a certain calibre of player to make them compete with the very best. And who knows, they might be in a world where someone like Van Dijk doesn't have to leave Celtic. He could stay at the club because of the level of competition within the league that they're playing in. I guess the interesting thing for me in this hypothetical scenario would boil down to Celtic's ambition when it comes to competing in the Premier League, for example. Because right now, they're pretty much guaranteed Champions League football every season, nights like this at Celtic Park, off the back of winning the SPL. If you were to be thrown in the Premier League, this wouldn't be such a guarantee, would it? Of course it wouldn't. So it would be a massive risk. You'd probably have to go some years without Champions League football, maybe breaking into the top 10, then top 6, and then top 4, and then beyond that. But one thing's for certain, I'd love nothing more than to see Celtic and Rangers in the Premier League, especially, and no disrespect to some of the teams that do come up into the Premier League, who have got no chance competing financially. But Celtic and Rangers, you would have to imagine, would be able to because of the size of their clubs.